Today we are going to be graphing points on the coordinate plane. This is the coordinate plane, and I know you've seen this before. We have already done some graphing on a number line, and this is very similar, only now we're using both an x-axis and a y-axis. While you're watching this video, please pause frequently and take lots of notes. Even if it's something you think you already know, it's still good to make sure it's in your notes. So the x-axis is the axis that runs horizontally from left to right. Now, if you're not using x and y, the horizontal axis is still the axis of the independent variable. The y-axis is the axis that runs vertical or up and down. And again, if you're not using x and y, then the y-axis is still the dependent variables axis. When we are numbering our axes, we start at the origin, which is right here in the center. The origin is 0.00, always. Now, you don't always have to have your intervals going up by 1. In this case, we do, but your intervals, you have to remember, have to be equal value and equal distance apart. From the origin on your x-axis, going to the right, you're going to be going to the positive numbers, and going to the left, you're going to be going to the negative numbers. So positive 1, positive 2, positive 3. From the origin, negative 1, negative 2, negative 3. And that's always the way you're going to set that up. That's exactly the way we set up our number lines also. Now, your y-axis is the same way we would set up our vertical number lines, and I know we don't have as much experience with that. So you need to remember your y-axis is positive as it's going up, negative as it's going down. Next, I want to talk about the quadrants. There are 4 quadrants on a coordinate plane, which makes sense because quad, the root word, means 4, which you should know from quadrilateral, or if you ride dirt bikes, from riding quads, have 4 wheels. So the root word quadrant comes from the word 4. The first quadrant, quadrant 1, we, for some reason, I'm not sure what, almost always use the Roman numerals for the 1 in quadrant 1. Quadrant 1 is where both your x values and your y values are positive. Your quadrants go counterclockwise from quadrant 1, so here's Q1 or quadrant 1, and they go counterclockwise. Quadrant 2, where you have negative x values but positive y values. Quadrant 3, where you have negative x values and negative y values. In quadrant 4, where you have positive x values and negative y values. Please make sure you have this diagram in your notes. The first example says graph negative 2, 4, 4, negative 2, 2, negative 4, and negative 4, 2 on the same coordinate plane. The first thing, we're going to need a coordinate plane, obviously. Here is our coordinate plane, and without even graphing it, I already know some things about my points. Here I have negative 2, 4. Because my x value is negative and my y value is positive, I know negative 2, 4 is going to be in quadrant 2. 4, negative 2, a positive x value and a negative y value. I know that needs to be in quadrant 4. Here I have 2, negative 4, again positive x, negative y, must again be in quadrant 4. And negative 4, positive 2, negative x value, positive y value, is going to be here in quadrant 2. I'm going to start by plotting my first point, negative 2, 4. My first value is always going to be my x value. The second value is always going to be written as my y value. Just like the alphabet, the x will come before the y. Some people find it useful to label their points as x, y. If you do, go ahead. If you don't, that's fine too. My x value tells me where I need to go from the origin, left or right. So negative 2 means from the origin, I need to go to the left 2 places. My y value tells me from my origin if I'm going to go up or down. So I'm going to start by going 2 places to the left. Then I need to go 4 places up to get my point negative 2, 4. For these, you want to make sure you are labeling your points, even though you might not need to in the future. So negative 2, 4 is right here. From the origin, left 2 and up 4. Now I'm going to do positive 4, negative 2. A lot of people get these points confused, so it's really important that you can see that they're different. The positive 4 tells me I'm going to go from my origin right 4 places. The negative 2 says go down 2. Of course, you need to make sure that you are checking what your intervals are. In this case, it's to the right 4 places because my intervals are each one value. So you want to make sure you're looking to see what values your intervals have. Positive 2, negative 4, right here. And negative 4, positive 2 will be right here. And that is basically all we need to know today for graphing on a coordinate plane.